Want to start recording?
Chair, that's started.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to Traffic Management today. So good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Councillor Sarah Hacker, Vice Chair of the Traffic Management Subcommittee. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting, which councillors are now required to attend in person following the expiry of the Coronavirus Act regulations, which permitted online meetings. We are meeting in a socially distanced layout in the council chamber with a small number of seats provided for the press and public. We'll be using new equipment connecting the chamber into Microsoft Teams meeting. There is a live stream available through Teams and a recording of the meeting would be uploaded to the website afterwards. So as it was before, when you speak, if you would turn your microphone on, and when you finish speaking, turn it off. I will now ask councillors to introduce themselves. So it's in alphabetical order, so you're warned. So Councillor Barnett-Ward.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett-Ward, Caversham Ward Councillor and Lead Member for Neighbourhoods and Communities.
Thank you. We have apologies from Councillor Devine. Councillor Ennis.
Councillor John Ennis, Southcote Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Gittings is not here yet. Councillor Leng.
Good evening, Councillor Mickey Leng, Whitley Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Mitchell. Oh, you need to turn your microphone on. There we go.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you. Councillor Clarence Mitchell, Peppard Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Page.
Councillor Tony Page, Lead Member for Environment Planning and Transport and an Abbey Councillor.
Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Raj Singh, Kentwood Ward.
Okay. Councillor Stanford Beale.
Councillor Jane Stanford Beale, Peppard Ward.
Okay. Councillor Terry.
Councillor Liz Terry, Minster Ward.
Thank you. And Councillor Whittam.
Councillor Jamie Whittam, Redlands Ward.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, just so you know, you'll see here a screen is what the Teams meeting is showing. We do have people who will be teamsing in later. So this is a new thing to try. It was worked on policy committee, so let's hope it works this evening. So fingers crossed. So on to the agenda. Unfortunately, Councillor Ayub cannot be here because he's having to isolate, so I'm chairing the meeting. And I'd like to announce that item 8 has been withdrawn due to further consultation needing with Reading buses. So that item will not be brought today, it will be brought to a future meeting. So into the agenda, do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Ennis.
Just want to declare, I think the word is pecuniary interest, non-pecuniary interest, and you have to remember that, as I am a resident of Grovelands Road, which will be discussed on the residents' parking.
Thank you. Okay, then on to the minutes of the previous meeting. I do have an item to bring up, and that is under item around the 20-mile-an-hour zone in the residential streets. It was asked that this item come back to the subcommittee, in June. However, it's not on the agenda, so can we make sure that it's on the one for September, please? Thank you. Anyone else got anything to mention about the agenda, the minutes from the last meeting? No, so I can sign those. Do that in a second. Brilliant then. On to questions from members of the public and councillors. So, first challenge of the evening then is we have Mr. Duncan Godding asking a question by phone.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear us?
I can, yes. Hello, good evening, councillors.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Godding. So could you please ask your question?
Absolutely. I'd like to ask whether the committee will consider looking at the layout and the signals at the junction of the Bath Road and the Burfield Road. It seems to make sense and greatly improve traffic flow in the area to have the left-hand lane travelling west along the Bath Road towards the junction dedicated to turning left. The signals could then be modified to allow traffic in this lane to turn left onto the Burfield Road when traffic is being allowed to turn right and left from the Burfield Road onto the Bath Road. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Godding. And I invite Councillor Page, the Lead Councillor for Strategic Environment Planning and Transport, to make a response on my behalf.
Thank you, and I thank Mr. Godding for his question. As you travel along Bath Road from Honey End Lane, there is a single lane of traffic until you have passed the Esso Tesco garage and the traffic island by the Granville Road junction. Only then does the Bath Road open up into 2 lanes to the traffic signals at the junction with Burfield Road. Even during normal daily traffic flows, the queue of traffic can exceed the 2 lanes and extend back into the single lane section. If we were to dedicate one of the 2 lanes at the traffic signals as a left turn lane, it would only have very limited benefit to the driver who was able to reach the traffic signals before the queue extended beyond the 2 lanes and back into the single lane. At the busiest times, there are drivers who use the left-hand lane to drive straight ahead, despite the 2 lanes quickly returning to 1 due to the bus lane beyond the junction. However, this limited facility does add extra capacity at the busiest period that would only increase the overall queue length if these vehicles could only use the 2nd lane to go ahead and carry on along the Bath Road. A dedicated left turn has been considered before by officers, but modelling has always shown an overall increase in queuing and delay at the busiest periods on the Bath Road from the Honey End Lane direction if drivers are unable to use both lanes to proceed ahead. Any worsening of the queue on the Bath Road from the Honey End Lane direction will only increase the overall delay, and for those drivers who want to turn left, the benefit of a dedicated left turn lane and signal is completely lost. However, we do not know what the longer term impact of COVID will be on traffic, and particularly on the traditional travel to and from work peak periods. As we emerge from the pandemic and identify changes to those traditional traffic patterns, there may be opportunities for us to reassess individual signalised junctions and consider opportunities for such a change. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Mr. Godding, do you wish to ask a supplementary question which would be used if you wanted to seek clarification from the answer?
No follow-up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Good evening. Okay, we then have another question, this time asked in person by Lynn Godfrey, if you'd like to come forward. Okay, so when you're ready, pop your mic on and then ask your question.
Good evening. In November 2017, a petition was presented to the Traffic Management Subcommittee, re traffic management at the junction of Prospect Street, Peppard, Henley and Westfield Roads in Caversham. What progress has been made towards the implementation of this request? Thank you.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Page, the lead councillor for Strategic Environment Planning and Transport, to make the response on my behalf.
Thank you, Chair, and can I thank Lynn Godfrey for her question. The petition presented in November 2017 was responded to in a follow-up report to Traffic Management Subcommittee in January 2018. The response by officers, which was accepted by the subcommittee, included the following. Officers understand the perceived safety concerns at this junction, and there is a statutory duty placed upon us as the Highway Authority to improve road safety through the reduction of casualties. The council does this by analysing casualty data supplied to us by Thames Valley Police. The reply goes on to detail the casualty data at that time, which indicated the junction had a very good safety record. A review of the current accident data does not suggest this has changed. The response goes on to explain the challenge of adding a pedestrian all red to traffic phase to the junction and the significant impact to vehicular traffic. The council is conscious of a possible significant worsening of delay and congestion to road traffic, which could create wider problems or knock-on issues elsewhere, including poorer air quality, increasing delay to public transport, and increased traffic on other routes, resulting in wider accident and/or vulnerable user concerns. However, Traffic Management Subcommittee went on to make a commitment to carry out an assessment of the knock-on effects, and this commitment resulted in the desire for pedestrian facilities to feature on our traffic management measures list, which is held by this subcommittee and is subject to funding. To date, no funding has been identified, but other factors are now being considered by officers. The Council recognises the value of walking and cycling, and the Government's COVID Active Travel Scheme initiative has provided some funding to improve walking and cycling facilities. Furthermore, our own Reading Transport Strategy 2036, which was consulted upon last year, reflects the policy position of improved walking and cycling against the need to reduce congestion and improve air quality. As a part of this, we have adopted a local cycling and walking infrastructure policy, which will be used to shape our infrastructure to improve walking and cycling over the next few years. Our draft transport strategy and this policy can be viewed on our website. As we understand the longer term impact of COVID, and less traffic, particularly at the traditional travel to and from work periods, we're considering all possibilities and opportunities for improved facilities, especially for pedestrians and cyclists, should more funding become available, including all bidding opportunities made available by national government. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Do you have a supplementary question? You don't. Thank you very much for coming this evening. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is petitions, and we have no petitions, so we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the modification to the public right-of-way footpath 21A, located south of the former home-based Toys R Us site in Carnarvon Drive. Can I ask the officer to introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report details modifications to the public right-of-way footpath 21A as a consequence of planning application 170509, which was for the redevelopment of the former home-based Toys R Us site on Carnarvon Drive. This application permitted the erection of 765 residential units, 5 commercial units, various works to the public realm, including a new Riverside Square. The application has secured works to the public realm, opening up the opportunity for the tiered access between the proposed Riverside Square and the River Kennet, resulting in modifications to the line and width of footpath 21A. Non-material amendments were permitted on the 8th of February 2021 to the original planning permission. This included alterations to the landscaping, access design and alterations to the public realm. These changes do impact on the public right-of-way, but in a positive way, ensuring that footpath 21A is retained at its current width on the eastern and western boundaries of the site, whereas the proposal initially included slight reductions in its width. Overall, the proposal includes improvements to the public right-of-way, providing for a ramp down to the river frontage at the western boundary of the site, providing greater accessibility for all pedestrians. This ramp is a replacement of existing steps, which is classed as a limitation along this route. The proposal therefore removes this limitation. This report seeks approval to commence a statutory consultation in relation to the modifications to the public right-of-way Route 21A as detailed within the report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Page.
Chair, I hope the subcommittee will support this recommendation. This is an important planning application and the redevelopment of that site is already well underway. The importance of this particular location will again be shown this weekend with Waterfest, when the benefits of the area and this location will be on display, and the regeneration of this site will deliver that open area shown on the map opposite the island, and the full benefits of the public access and this footpath can be then enjoyed, hopefully on a much more established basis. It will also enable us to sort out some of the less desirable activities that have been taking place along that footpath in recent years, with the site being derelict and cleared, and a certain element of illegal and unauthorised moorings that have taken place. I won't dwell on that. Let's dwell on the positive. This is an important proposal that alongside the regeneration of that site will enormously enhance the riverside for all users. So I would commend it to the subcommittee chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Page. I used to work in offices overlooking that particular area, and I know the challenges it has experienced. So I look forward to seeing the regeneration and it becoming a pleasant area to walk. I haven't seen anyone else indicate, so can I ask the committee if they agree the recommended action on page 16? Thank you very much. Okay, on to agenda item 6, which is the residence parking permit schemes for statutory consultation, Granville Road and the Catesgrove area. So who is introducing this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, you pretty much introduced it, actually. I mean, this is exactly what this report is all about. Just to note as well, this is kind of a bit of an update to the RP schemes that we've reported on several times in the past. But this also picks up on the Tidmarsh Street and the Kentwood Hill schemes that were in the programme, and this is also recommending that they're removed now following that continued dialogue, particularly with ward members. So the essence of this report is to take those two initiatives forward for statutory consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. And we have Councillor Liam Challenger who wishes to speak. If you'd like to come forward.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's so much nicer to be on this side of the committee room. I just want to say thank you to the officers for preparing this report. It's been a long one due to COVID and various other issues, so it's great to finally see it come towards the committee and to offer, as Catesgrove councillors, the support for all the proposals. As you know, this is a hub of an area in Catesgrove with the hospital, the university and the town centre nearby, and has become blighted in recent years with people dumping their cars there throughout the day and weekends, and residents are hugely supportive of any scheme to come into this area to help deal with the problem. We've seen a rise of problem parking, with people parking their white vans, their delivery vans, especially in the Whitley Street and Bourne Avenue areas. So anything that we can do to remedy that would be absolutely fantastic. You know, going into the area on Sunday morning before 10 o'clock and every space is taken on Bourne Avenue with people, you know, it needs to be reclaimed by residents who don't own that many cars to need that many spaces. It's also heartening to hear from residents who took advantage of this terrible time that we've been going through in this past year to reclaim their streets and make it a place for children to play, and you know, when their streets weren't being blighted by cars that are not from residents there. And hopefully these schemes will be, you know, will help tackle this. It is sad, though, to see that other political parties have taken advantage of the delay and have put out misinformation and wrong information about these schemes and the consultation and spread lies and disinformation to residents. And I would ask through you, Chair, if Councillor Whittam would apologise on behalf of the Reading Greens for the untold disruption that you've caused in that area by saying that schemes were already progressing when they haven't even gone to consultation, and the amount of work that has to have been done by councillors, officers and residents to, you know, go back on those lies and disinformation that you've spread. Overall, residents want this scheme, and hopefully, you know, this is the first step in a way of really dealing with a problem parking area in Catesgrove. I commend the subcommittee to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Challenger. Any comment at all there, Councillor Whittam?
No, thanks. No, I don't know what he's talking about.
Councillor Ennis.
I want to talk about the Granville Road, if that's all right. Yeah, I very much support this initiative, which has taken a long period of time. As you would know, the area of Granville Road is, I'll use the word blighted, but it's problematic with businesses using the area to park, certain garages to use to park cars and staff rather than use their own areas. taxi ranks or taxi companies also using it, and it's you know, residents are unable to park around there. And this has been going for a long period of time. So it's been a call for a number of years, and this has been sitting in the to-do list, as you would say. And I'm really pleased to see that it has. We've already had a number of consultations. By and large, they were positive, although welcome the statutory consultation to see what that comes back. But very much welcome and like to thank the work that's been done with the proposed areas on page 31, and look forward to the statutory consultation and what that brings. But I take it that's going to be this summer, July time, for a 4-week period. Mr. Beasley would come. I take it that's to be confirmed. It'd be good for us to know, to get a good forward heads up, as you would say, so we can also welcome the consultation and encourage residents in the blocks of Granville Road and the houses to take part in it and see a transparent, honest approach and see what comes back. But thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. Mr. Beasley, is that the rough timescale for this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, the intention is to do this, to carry out the statutory consultation. It's a 21-day period, actually, the statutory consultation period. But to do that, to complete it, and to bring back the results of that for the September meeting.
Excellent, thank you very much. I've not seen anyone else indicate. So if we'd then like to move to the recommended action on page 27, so that is to remove the Tidmarsh Street area and Kentwood Hill schemes and go ahead with Granville Road and Catesgrove area consultations. All those in favour? Lovely. Thank you very much. Right then, on to agenda item 7, which is the biannual waiting restrictions review, of which there are many. Which officer is introducing this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so this is the list that was shared with the subcommittee at the March meeting. So officers have now carried out their investigation and they've bringing forward recommendations for statutory consultation. So there's quite an extensive list here, as you'll see from the pack, and there's drawings to suit as well for those schemes that we want to take forward and what we will be consulting upon. I have my colleague James Penman here. It's James's team that carries out this investigation. So as you go through the list, if there's any points of clarity, I'm sure that between myself and James we'll be able to help.
Lovely. So what I'm going to do then is just quickly go through ward by ward. If you do have a comment, please indicate that you wish to speak on your ward. So first off, Abby. Yep, Councillor Page.
Yes, Chair, support both of these, particularly with regard to Chatham Place. That should really be called the Chatham Place Service Road, which runs behind the Oxford Road shops. Unlike any of the other proposals, the council has already put down the double yellow lines, so there will be no cost in terms of implementation, because the double yellow lines went down a few years ago when Chatham Place flats were built. Only trouble is we forgot to have the necessary order in place to enforce them. This is a bit of retrospective work. So unlike others, the cost implications are only the small element in terms of the legal order, and I hope and I have every confidence this will be well supported. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. On to Caversham.
Thank you, Chair, and the Caversham councillors support these.
Thank you. Church, we've heard nothing from our church colleagues. Are they happy with that? Same for Catesgrove. Kentwood Ward.
Thank you, Chair. We support the recommendations made by the officer.
Thank you. On to Minster, Councillor Terry.
Yep, we support this.
Brilliant. Quickly on to Norfolk, which again we've had no comments from our colleagues. Park Ward, I don't know if anyone's heard anything from them.
I've spoken to the Park Ward councillors and they're happy for this to go ahead.
Okay, thank you. On to Redlands.
Yes, I'm happy with those.
Okay. Southcote, Councillor Ennis.
Yeah, Chair. Certainly support Southcote Lane one. No questions about that. I do support the Leavenwood Road not going forward, but at the same time, there is an issue on Leavenwood Road with the Prospect Park traffic parking, with the vaccination and the testing where it's on the use of the car park. Now, hopefully that will be a temporary measure, as you would say, but not so sure really. And that has had an impact on parking around the Leavenworth Wood Road area and Penrith. Now, double yellows might not support that. We do know there are a number of planning issues coming forward in that area, particularly a care home or housing or whatever, because the land is available. So I really would, if there's any comment officers would like to say about that, if there's any ideas, apart from what's been mentioned here. So I understand the removal and the recommended removal of the request, but at the same time, there are issues there to deal with or will be dealing with in the future. So I just wanted to put that out there, and any views on that from officers and Support Southcote Lane. Thank you. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So anything to add about that little problem we have at the moment?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Leavenworth Road is a funny one. We get various comments about traffic conditions and parking conditions down there quite regularly, actually. As the report picks up, we talk about the parking does act as a traffic calming measure as well. Activities in the park vary; they can be busy one moment and they're not so busy the next. The impact of COVID and the taking over of the car park is obviously well noted, and we have been keeping a very close eye on that. I mean, just sort of parking conditions across the wider area are something that we as officers, we receive comments and we do look at them and we will review. I think the recommendation in this particular instance is a good recommendation. We have a rolling programme, and the reason that we have a rolling programme, not that we want to keep throwing resources at the same issue time and time again, but it does enable us to come back if we ever wanted to in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Is that, yeah, okay, brilliant. Okay, Thames. Anyone? Okay, we'll just take those ahead. Tilehurst. Nobody from Tilehurst. And finally, Whitley. Councillor Laing, you happy with these proposals?
Thank you, Chair. The Whitley councillors support this recommendation.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Chair, your microphone's not on.
Item 9. We do approve of the recommended action, and so we move on to item 9, which is the results of the statutory consultation, and this is covering residents' parking permits in the Grovelands Road, Shilling Close and Sintra Close areas. Who is introducing this one? Somebody real.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, I mean, in a sense, the officer work is now done on these schemes. We made our recommendation. Those recommendations have now been consulted upon. It's now the task of the subcommittee to consider the response to that statutory consultation and make a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. And we have Councillor Lovelock beaming in to us from Norcott. Oh,
yeah, thank you.
There you are, lovely.
Thank you very much. Shall I talk about Grovelands Road first and then come on to Shilling after you've dealt with Sintra? Would it be helpful to separate them?
No, do them at the same time. I think it'd be easier. Yeah.
Okay. Right, well, starting with Grovelands Road then, this has been a long-standing issue in this part of our ward. And it's always evoked very strong opinions on both sides. So we knew that this consultation would be controversial. And just briefly to say that over the past 7 or so years, we have consulted residents informally on 3 occasions. The first time it was a bit like Brexit, 50-50, and we didn't take it any further forward because there wasn't enough evidence there that the scheme would actually be supported with that tight a margin. We then had people coming and telling us that things had got worse and please would we ask again, and people telling us they'd changed their minds. So we did another consultation about 2016 and this time it was 66% against a residence parking scheme and about 33% in favour. So again, we left it clearly there was a majority against. And then over the last couple of years, we have had an even stronger lobby from people who feel the situation has got very out of hand, particularly in the narrow terrace streets down to the Oxford Road, off Waverley Road, and people desperate for us to revisit this issue. So again, we went out and did an informal consultation, and about 57% agreed we should take it to the next stage. I hope it's okay to give all this background, but I think it is important for people to understand how much effort has gone into trying to find out what local people think. We had a drop-in session at Wilson School with officers present to ask, so people could ask questions and get answers to them. And then the officers drew up this statutory consultation, which, as is outlined in the report, they went out to consultation on at the end of March. As you can see from the report, there are very many responses to this. We have evidence, and indeed people being quite open with us, that many of those responses were duplicate from the same household. Many were from people's relatives and friends, not just across Reading, but indeed across the world, objecting to this because it would be inconvenient for them when they visited. And people were worried about that being a sort of skewed response. So we always promised that before this committee, we would do a final consultation of our own and wrote to every resident in the area. And over the last couple of weeks, responses have been coming back. We had a total of 212 replies, and 59 said, yes, please go ahead, and 153 said no. So I think that's pretty overwhelming against this. In many ways, I think it's a shame because the situation for some people is really dire. But we have, as local councillors, always been very, very clear that we would only support a scheme if it had majority support of the local residents. So I would like to ask the subcommittee at this stage to turn this down. I don't think this problem is going to go away. I think people will always be very concerned about the fact they can't park anywhere near their homes when they get home in the evening and so on. But nevertheless, the people have spoken, and the Norfolk councillors therefore believe we should at this stage certainly for the foreseeable future, put this on hold, as is the wishes of the majority of residents. Some of the yellow lines outlined in the scheme, I believe, will be going ahead because they are supported and sensible, but that will be for another day and another decision. So that's Grovelands Road, Chair, Grovelands area, Chair. Shilling Close, I think, is in many ways quite difficult because although there weren't that many responses, I don't think many people really understood that the areas on the map that you can see, which are marked as non-highway parking, they don't realise that that would not be an enforceable area. Other people who live further into Shilling Close, and indeed people who live on Tylers Road, also have some strong opinions but didn't necessarily respond. There's also the petition signed by 29 people, which covers a whole lot of issues, including the fact that the main problem is parking for the hospital, Prospect Park Hospital, and staff being out there, maybe not behaving as considerately as they should do. I'll say no more than that, but we will be in touch with the hospital to discuss this whole situation, parking and other issues. And therefore we feel, the councillors in Norfolk feel at the moment, we haven't got sufficient support to push this ahead without doing further work on the whole issue with all the local residents and indeed those from Tylers Road who have also written in. So thank you, Chair. That's the request from the Norfolk councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Lovelock. So just to be clear, that we're going to be asked to approve the removal of the Grovelands Road area and Shilling Close area from further action at this point. I haven't seen anyone else. Oh, Councillor Page.
Just on that proposal, could I formally propose it that we don't proceed with that for the reasons that Councillor Lovelock's very eloquently set out? I suppose that's just worth emphasising, particularly to newer colleagues that one of the hallmarks of residents' parking schemes in the borough is that all the schemes we've introduced have been not only supported by a substantial number, but supported on an enduring basis. Over nearly 50 years, we've never had any pressure to withdraw in a residence parking scheme, and that's because we are particularly mindful of the need to consult properly and extensively. And Councillor Lovelock has set out the way in which the Norfolk councillors have done precisely that. In Norfolk, it's sad that it hasn't ended up with a scheme to implement, but there is no point, and this is a lesson that some other local authorities have learnt to their expense. There's no point in foisting residents' parking schemes where they aren't wanted or where the support is only marginal, because it just creates dissent and dissatisfaction in a way that then comes back to bite the authority and will cause enduring problems. That doesn't mean, as Councillor Lovelock rightly said, that the problems have gone away, and for some local residents in the area there will be a problem. But in terms of an area scheme that we pride ourselves on introducing, there isn't the support for that here. And I would just like to thank Councillor Lovelock and her Norfolk colleagues for the amount of work that they have invested in this. And I understand the frustration that after this length of time, and with the officer work and support as well, that we have to say we're not proceeding with it for the time being. But the one thing I would hold out is it took us, 12 years to get residents in Newtown to a position where they supported overwhelmingly a residents' parking scheme. So don't give up, Joe, hang on in there. And we might yet see a scheme introduced that has that sufficient support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. And I have Councillor Whittam.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think we should press ahead with Central Close. I think the majority are in favour. There was a couple of objections, and particularly some living on Christchurch Road, but I think in general it's supported.
Thank you, Councillor Whittam. I know our Labour colleagues in Redlands also supported this. So we have a change to the recommended action. So that is to remove Grovelands and Shilling Close and to proceed with Central Close. So can we agree with the recommended actions on page 80 as amended? Thank you. Okay, on to agenda item 10. So this is the Heights School results of the statutory consultation. Who's introducing this? Mr. Penman.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the Heights school development is pressing ahead, and as part of the planning proposals that were put forward, there was Section 106 funding secured for the implementation of a zebra crossing. And through this committee, we have gone through the process that we need to consult on the placement of not only that crossing, but also on some school keep clear markings, and we're asking the committee tonight to consider the objections that have been received and also to decide on whether or not both of these proposals be implemented as advertised. Just as a note as well, that we bring a regular report to this committee with requests for traffic management measures, and it's just to note that improvements in crossings on the Upper Woodcote Road did feature on that list, and this would contribute to that as well.
Thank you very much. I believe Councillor Mitchell, you have a statement on behalf of Councillor Balsden.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Balsden for Maple Durham Ward would have been here to give this herself, but she's got a residents' meeting this evening, so she sends her apologies, but has asked us to read this out on her behalf. She says, I support the zebra crossing being located on the eastern side of the access road to the pavilion and school. Its installation will not only improve safety for those pupils, parents and staff getting to and from the new school building, but also for all other residents crossing the Upper Woodcote Road. However, the residents in the immediate vicinity of the proposed zebra crossing have legitimate concerns, including intrusive new lights, challenges for any future deliveries, as well as pedestrian safety. What will the council do to engage with those concerned residents prior to the installation?
Mr. Penman.
Thank you. Well, one of the actions that we would take away is if the committee decided to agree to implement these, we would contact all the objectors anyway. We can provide a greater level of detail in the response to them to just reassure them that these proposals have gone through an independent road safety audit. And my understanding is that the lighting enhancements that are going to be placed for the crossing will be shielded, hooded, so they're not sort of open lighting that would be intrusive to those properties. So we can reassure them of that in our response to them as well.
Thanks very much. I'll pass that on to Councillor Balston.
Thank you. I can't see anyone else indicating. So can we approve the recommended actions that start on page 155? Great. Excellent. Okay, so that is the end of the public part of the meeting, and I have to move the following motion that pursuant to section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended, members of the press and public be excluded during consideration of the following item on the agenda, as it is likely that there would be a disclosure of exempt information as defined in the relevant paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act. But as there's nobody else here, in other words, cameras off, and thank you very much, everybody.